WoW is dead. Again. Ha! Got you there, Doomsayer. WoW isn't dead, I think. I mean, YouTube for WoW content creators is dwindling, which makes this confusing, but there are more people playing the game, at least in Mythic Plus, than at any point in the past few expansions. Like, a lot more. So why then does the game feel dead despite the numbers telling a different story? There are currently at least 4 times more people playing Mythic Plus than ever before. Yes, ever, even compared to Legion, despite BFA being a more popular Mythic Plus expansion. It is always really difficult to tell how many people are playing the game at one time, especially since Blizz has stopped making this number public years ago. But we can guess, and we can take a pretty good guess. Whether you know what logs are or not, this is a pretty close representation of the player base that we have access to. Logs are essentially people playing the game and recording their log of the game, uploading it to Warcraft logs. People have been doing this since forever, and although not everyone does this, enough people do where we can tell the difference in player base or popularity. We might not be able to tell exactly how many people played the game, but we can tell if there's a difference from season to season. A few weeks ago, I was looking over the numbers from past expansions for the topic of this video, and as of recording this one, Warcraft Logs is doing some with their database for the logs, especially with Legion. Now it says Legion had 6 seasons with a few hundred parses each, or something, which is definitely not what it was before. Legion numbers were just slightly under BFA, and the best BFA season was Season 3 with these numbers that capped at 400,000 parses for the most popular spec, which was Havoc at the time. Similar to Legion, the Dragonflight parses also were messed with. This particular screenshot I took a few weeks back showed Red rocking over 1 million parses, which we mentioned in the Age of Red video. Last week on stream, when we looked again, it said it reached 1.1 million players, which is still a ridiculous numbers for 2 weeks of Mythic Plus, but would make sense if we're talking about numbers in the millions. Obviously, this is just Red, but of course, every other spec has way more people playing them than in previous expansions. This doesn't mean we have 1 million Reds doing keys, or that there are a total of 1 million Red keys done this season. This means there are a lot more keys done, period. The exact number doesn't matter as much as the fact that it's at least double the size of BFA's best season and quadruple that of past Dragonflight seasons, which are about as popular as any Shadowlands or BFA's normal seasons. Even the latest snippet on Warcraft logs showing 800,000 parses and not the over 1 million I saw a few weeks back still points to the same conclusion. Now, I'm not exactly sure what is going on with their data. Maybe 1 million was misrepresentative, maybe they lost some of the data. Either way, it's still vastly more than any time before, which is a clear indication that people like to do keys now more than ever, which is the important part. And part of liking to do keys more than ever is liking how your character looks with a transmog on, and even better, having that transmog as a wallpaper on your desktop, like I do, and like all of these people do with their amazing transmogs for their characters. What do they all have in common? They are a part of our Patreon that supports our content. Yes sirree! If you go to patreon.com/MarcelianOnline, link down below, you'll be able to have access to a lot of goodies that we offer in exchange for the support of our patrons that, help us make all of the content, keep the lights up and all of that. 4K wallpapers with your transmog is but one of the benefits that you get on top of having access to bloopers, early access to videos and other things as well. Of course, it's not required, but we super appreciate and are grateful for any support that we get. And if you do decide to help us out or at least check it out to see maybe there's something there for you, check the link down below. Whether it is subjective or not, keys are more fun now than ever. The annoying affixes are gone. The seasonal affix is no more. The dungeon pool is refreshing. The specs are more interesting and fun to play, while the overall keys are easier to do. Doing a +20 now feels like a +15 in previous seasons, but these are just arbitrary numbers. What we can say for sure is that it is more enjoyable to play Mythic Plus in 10.2.5 or Season 3 overall than ever before, regardless of the constant shift in data numbers. So, is WoW dead or not? Well, first of all, WoW being dead is a meme, guys. We just have to get over it. WoW has been pronounced lifeless every expansion for over a decade, and yet still here we are. And to be fair, if it didn't fully die in Shadowlands during the Sanctum of Domination raid and the big scandal, it won't die now. That isn't to say that the game didn't suffer in numbers, development, or other areas, which we will uncover in this video, but saying it's dead is just old and boring. There are still a lot of people that are either loyal to the game, don't really play any other games, or simply have WoW as a part of their life that they cannot give up. It could be because of nostalgia or an emotional attachment that developed over the years, since WoW means a lot to a lot of people. WoW has been such a cultural phenomenon that it transcended the status of just a video game or just an MMO. For some people, it is an escape into a world of activity that presents less stress, that can help them unwind and engage their brain with different things than their bills and jobs, family issues, and so on. For others, it could be a social place for their friends group. We have heard the legends of women also playing video games and meeting their significant others in WoW, so attachments and bonds with the game could have formed this way. All of this would explain why the game didn't die before and why it will likely never die unless the devs just pull the plug on it. Now, does the game deserve its players? Maybe. It definitely didn't feel it deserved its players at some points in the past. Fact of the matter is, players are here and World of Warcraft is kicking. It might not be of much interest to you specifically, but World of Warcraft YouTube content has been unpopular for the better part of a year. And not just for our channel, but bigger creators like Bellular and Taliesin have suffered a significant drop in viewership. Although this is whatever info for some people, for us it usually meant that the game is not trending or not played as much, or it's that period when people take a break only to come back later when a new patch or expansion hits. And that is true for some people, since WoW has become a seasonal type game, but some things don't make sense and haven't made sense since Dragonflight released. And because of these weird things, you have seen videos on our channel and other channels as well talking about them. Dragonflight is a much better expansion than Shadowlands in BFA from a technical standpoint. Think about it, or try to remember how these other two have been. BFA had enormous issues with Azerite armor. The way you acquired it was bullshit back in the day. The fact that you had to pay gold to reset your Azerite to other powers was also bullshit. And if you really remember, the gold prices were goddamn ridiculous. After they were fixed, we were still confronted with boring Azerite traits that were also replacing tier sets. Because, yes, in Legion we had tier sets, and the idea of BFA was to take a break from tier sets and have Azerite instead, which was, mildly putting it, not popular. And after this, we were introduced to essences in 8.2 that, as a system, worked really well in offsetting the Azerite friction, but they were incredibly annoying to acquire once again. For one of them, you had to do hundreds of battlegrounds to get, for another you had to do arenas, and of course PvP players were forced to do their share of raids and keys to get the ones they needed as well, and quite a few of them also. The issues were also with corruptions, which, similar to Azerite and essences, most people only remembered the good times when they were easy to acquire. But corruptions were all RNG until late into the season when the vendor was introduced that had corruptions on a 5 or more week rotation. And when the week with your ideal one came up, you likely couldn't buy all that you wanted, so most of the times you had to wait a full cycle again. Wasn't great. People dubbed BFA the worst expansion WoW ever had. Little did they know, they just had to wait for the next one to reiterate that statement. And I think that says everything we need to say about Shadowlands. Yet Dragonflight came out swinging with full talent resets. You would be entirely entitled to call these class reworks. Reworks in the sense that the old talents, the passives and spells were all scrapped and placed into this new talent tree. They are reworks in the sense that now you could match certain things that you couldn't match before, like Ice Cap with Obliteration for Frost Decays, which in Shadowlands were on the same talent row and unable to be picked together. Talent revamp was something we needed for years, and we got them. The story of Dragonflight not being a weird cosmological story was also a great addition after Shadowlands. Dragons, Tuskars, and Centaurs brought us back to core WoW identities. The zones were a big refreshing change from the Maw and Korthia. Professions were made relevant. Mythic Plus was improved. Tier sets came back. Granted, last patch of Shadowlands had them too, but this time, once again, as a pillar of gearing. Dragon riding, reputation revamp, so many things we have been asking for, the devs actually delivered. So why? Well, there were some of the obvious changes that people didn't vibe with that we and many others have talked about before, where, to summarize it quickly, WoW lost a lot of its identity, personality, and soul, things that created epicness, coolness, badassery, and awesome stuff in the past. And those are the concepts that the majority of players cared for, the vast majority of them being casual players. Casual players make the backbone of WoW, and by casual I mostly am referring to people who maybe clear the raid on normal, who maybe do a few low Mythic Plus keys, nothing fancy, nothing over plus 10 or 15, and I would know, I was one of them. Casual players that farm pets and mounts, achievements, reputations, or renown in this case, and so on. Since our videos and many others revolve around providing digestible, often educational content to people who play a bit more casually, dropped in views as you would expect, since those players either don't play WoW anymore or are waiting for War Within. Because my guess is those players engaged or cared for the soul of the game way more than all the other technical improvements of World of Warcraft. While the players that care about Mythic Plus design, proper raid loot tables and boss skips, gear progression, and high-end achievements are also the people that love the current content, since the content they love is actually really good. So it won't be that surprising that those are also the people logging and maybe watching channels like Max from Liquid, which unsurprisingly I also enjoy. Now, I don't know what the analytics are for Max's channel, but I assume he's getting a pretty decent engagement from the people currently playing the game. The game is currently designed for, catered to, and enjoyed by the more hardcore audience. We never considered ourselves hardcore, but not sure if we are casuals either. We like to mythic raid and push keys over 22s and 23s, and numbers-wise, we are in the high-end minority regardless of how we like to label ourselves here at Marcelian&Online. And we enjoy the current version of the game, but we are also fans, or maybe were fans, of the story, lore, setting, characters, and have openly criticized the design of Dragonflight's boring, mellow, weepy, and wishy-washy design of the soul of the game. That would explain a lot. It would explain why it seems for some people that the game is dying, and it would explain why the others are out there saying, what the hell are you guys talking about? The game is definitely not dying. The game has a smaller player base, but the player base is giga infested and plays the shit out of the game. At least the numbers are indicating as much. What does this mean though? Well, after the back-to-back disasters of BFA and Shadowlands, the devs have started to make WoW have a comeback. And it looks like the combat is starting from the technical side first, and we can only hope it continues to the surface as well. The surface that has cool characters doing epic stuff like jumping off an airship to stab a big-ass robot, or have an epic duel of fates under the storms of Nagrand. You know, stuff that's so foreign to characters like Nosdormu and Alexstrasza that you are asking yourself, who am I even fighting for? War Within, with Metzin at the helm, looks like it's wanting to bring back the cool and epic, the stuff that a lot of people might engage with and come back for, the kind of people that, whether we like to admit it or not, make the game feel alive. WoW is not dead, it's changing, and it will take a few expansions to do it. But it is good, and it's getting better, and being on the journey is more fun than we thought. As fun as the upcoming hero talents though? Well, check it out right in this video. The new 8 have been announced last week, and they are looking better and better with each new iteration.